Welcome to YATESY'S ESPRESSO BAR.
Hello there and welcome to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast, and welcome to another visit to YATESY'S ESPRESSO BAR. This is the show that we record most weeks where we have a little think about the news that's coming out of the City Ground and also have a think about the games that are coming up and sometimes the ones that have just been. Now, back by popular demand this week, it is Nottingham Forest's very own wandering minstrel, our footballing traveller. Welcome back to 1865, Raymundo Football.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for having me back. It's always a pleasure. And what a week it's been as well. There's so much to talk about.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to start, mate. So obviously, I was on another podcast a couple of weeks ago where they were asking me, what do you think would be a good week for Forest? And I said 4 points and progression in the Europa League. And that's exactly what we got. And it felt good, didn't it, Ray?
Oh, yeah. Well, I wasn't there on Sunday. Then I got down to the match on Thursday. I wasn't there for the first Sunday, but then I was there for Thursday. Then I was there against Burnley. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic. The atmosphere against Porto was beautiful, especially the first half. And it got a bit nervy, didn't it, in the second half? But then the Burnley match, the first half, again, the atmosphere was quality. Again, it got a bit nervy, but in the end, phenomenal scenes and just scenes of joy, really. I think it's not just the result or the fact that Gibbs-White got his hat-trick. It's the togetherness of the team, it's not just for show. The tragedy that Anderson has experienced this week and his family, and then the strength that he showed to come back, and the support that Gibbs-White shown him. Williams that was beautiful, but when they laid down the flowers and the shirt before the game, that was truly special. That was, and you can tell that Williams and Anderson. You can tell that Anderson picked Nico out, can't you, to do that, because they're obviously close mates and that. So all in all, just such a feel-good week.
Yeah. And feel-good week, but you also touched upon slightly there that we had the full range of emotions, didn't we? In the sense of, the Villa match, there was kind of relief that those chances that Villa had, that they didn't put them away, but there's also a lot of pride in the fact that we put in a performance against a team who really are very good. And I think, for all that some people might have been frustrated, we should be looking to win our home matches. But Villa are a very, very good team. And of course, we're going to be playing them again in just another week and a half's time.
Yeah, we're going to be sick to death of them. I'm already sick to death of them from even before last Sunday. I was sick to death of them. But 4 games in best part of 3 weeks, I guess. We're going to be truly happy to see the back of them, and hopefully we'll be the ones on the way to Istanbul it would be my first visit to Turkey anyway. But I don't know about you.
Well, it would be for me, yeah. Certainly, I would say that George from our podcast, when he was reporting from the away leg in Fenerbahce, which of course was quite the night, wasn't it? And he was saying not only was the footballing experience really good, but just it's a wonderful city to visit. And I think from the fans who I've spoken to who've been to most of the Europa League away matches, they're saying that it's somewhere between Porto and Istanbul as their favourite places that they visited. Other opinions are, of course, available. So thinking about that Villa match, which we've touched upon, do you see anything in that which kind of makes you think that they've got weak spots that we could maybe exploit in the Europa League?
Yeah, I just think that, I'm not sure about their weak spots, but I just think our strength is just in our togetherness at the moment, and the fact that we do have quality all over the pitch. And it's just what's been letting us down is just the fact that we've just been disjointed all season, I guess, in various ways. Like, not to look back over the whole season, but there's just been something missing, hasn't there? But it hasn't been the quality of the players. So when they all come together and show what they're made of, we've had some good results recently. We've had some really good results. Like, we went to Tottenham and beat them 3-0. That's a good result, no matter what position Tottenham are in. So we're clearly capable, and I think it's the old adage of what really successful teams do. Not that we're one of them right now, but think about yourself and not about the opposition. Like Villa, okay, they're going to study them a little bit, but you got to go into it believing, just thinking, right, we are us. We are strong in this way and that way and the other way. Let's go out there and show them what we're made of, rather than trying to tip-tap around them and trying to think about them too much.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? I think that the match against Burnley at the weekend was a real case in point, wasn't it? Because the fact that the first half was so flat, it was down to Forest not doing the things they should be doing well and doing them well enough. Whereas in the second half, a little tactical tweak, but also just what's interesting about Vitor is that in his post-match interviews, he's often said that where the team have not been good and then they've improved as the game's gone on, he's not kind of put a rocket up and he's just kind of said, look, lads, just remember what you're good at. And it seems to have worked a treat, doesn't it?
Exactly, because we've got talent all over the pitch. I mean, look at that. We've got 2 England internationals for starters. Then we got, the likes of, we know how good Nico Williams is. We know we've got talent all over the pitch, and it's literally just for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked this season on the whole. But with someone like Vitor in charge, who's got them ticking along nicely, anything's possible. We can beat anyone, and of course, I think we're going to beat Villa. Seems like a safe bet for me, really.
Okay, and on Vitor then, look, we've seen all the managers this season, haven't we? I made the point in our match report on Sunday that I don't think that any of the other 3 managers we've had this season would have been able to get such a resounding victory after the first half we had against Burnley. I think that he had that mix of kind of tactical awareness, but also, the arm around a shoulder rather than the kick up the arse that's our players seem to respond to.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I think we can't really consider Nuno in that because he left so early. But, if he'd have carried on, who knows what would have happened. But Ange is probably my least favourite manager we've had this season, but who knows? But then for me, Dyche, I'll always back Dyche because I believe he's a good manager and I believe he's a good man. And I think he had the support of the team, to be fair. But yeah, for sure, Vitor's got something special in the way that he talks, the way that he communicates with people, and he is special in his own way. And so maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe he is better than any of them at just getting them going, saying, remember what you're good at. He's probably not a shouter and a screamer, like you say, is he? He's more of just a coaxer, and a reassurer and a motivator.
Yeah, I mean, we've made the comparison that maybe he's more like a kind of a friendly uncle or a favourite uncle, the kind that you're really happy to see. He might give you a bar of chocolate if you've been good, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That's probably what he did. He probably just handed out the Freddos at half time and a mini bag of Haribo, and that's probably what did it.
Yeah, well, the bag of Haribo would certainly get them running a bit more in the second half, wouldn't it?
Well, he definitely gave Amari Hutchinson something anyway, because that cross for the second goal was superb, wasn't it? And obviously Ryan Yates came on and showed the wingers exactly how it's done as well, didn't he?
Yeah, that's just very quickly on that one. So Maradona in the Midlands off this podcast, he was saying to me last week, he gets a bit frustrated with this idea of inverted wingers where, you've got Callum coming in on his right foot and Amari on his left foot. And sometimes you just got to get down to the byline and ping it over, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. Hudson-Odoi is someone I'll always appreciate, but he's not been the best this season, and it's just so what's the word? It's just so blunt what they do. It's just, and Hutchinson as well. Hutchinson's got good potential, but he just hasn't been at it this season, and they need to be more direct, taking people on, pinging it in, and just forget about all the fancy Nancy stuff. Just ping it in properly, not just beat the first man. You have to beat the first man. But then again, it's also, for me, it's also Igor Jesus, because he plays too deep. Time and again, I'm not criticising because he's good and I like him, but time and again, the ball gets delivered into the box and there's no one there. It's not like in the old days where you had 2 strikers where one of them can drop off. You're the one striker, Igor Jesus. You're the one striker. You need to stay up front. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Except we did see for, I think, about 20 minutes against Villa and about half an hour against Burnley, Wood playing up front and Jesus playing off him. And that, I mean, it's interesting because, it just meant we had that pressing forward that maybe we haven't had for most of the season when Eagle's been up front by himself.
Well, that's what did it. It was the surprise that Vitor sprung on everybody, really, because he also swapped the wing backs. If you noticed, he swapped the wing backs over, and I think he swapped the wingers over. I can't remember, but But then, as you say, he put on Igor and Woody at the same time. So it was that element of surprise that I think that put a bit of extra oomph into our team, and also probably startled Burnley to an extent, because, like I say, when Hutchinson gets the ball and jigs down, does a couple of pirouettes, and then he steps, they're just kind of thinking, okay, this is exactly what we thought he was going to do. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, hold on, we weren't expecting this. And I think there was probably a bit of panic in the Burnley team at that point when they realised both Jesus and Wood were on the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll come back to talking about first team matters in just a few minutes. Just a quick one from you, Ray. So it was reported by The Athletic today that Pogmol have deliberately kept Stuart Attwell away from Forest games ever since that Everton match, which prompted that tweet by the club. Do you have any thoughts on the idea that maybe, I mean, it's not clear whether Pogmol have kept Attwell away or whether Attwell's chosen not to referee any Forest matches, but any thoughts on that?
I can't say I've thought about it too much, but I suppose it seems pretty reasonable if there's a reason to believe that one referee might have a problem with one team, or one team's got a particular problem with the referee. I suppose it's reasonable that they would keep each other apart, but I might be wrong on that. I've not thought about the ethics of it too much, but what about you? What do you think?
Well, I think, right. So firstly, I don't think it should ever have been in that situation anyway, because if you look at it logically, and let's take away kind of the emotion from it. If you look at it logically, Forest said to the Premier League Game Match Officials Limited, we're aware of the fact that the guy who you've nominated as the VAR for this match, which is a relegation 6-pointer, is a fan of one of the teams who are directly below us in the league. And we're concerned about that. And
was that Luton, was it?
Yeah, he was a fan of Luton. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Pogmol decided to still keep Attwell as the VAR. And in that match, there were three flash points where the video assistant referee did not intervene. And subsequently, the Premier League panel looked at those decisions and said, Forest should have had at least one, if not two penalties out of those three. So it shows that there was a failing somewhere. Let's be honest, okay? We all have biases. And I'm not saying Attwell was corrupt against us. I'm saying that when you are supporting a team who are in a similar position, there may be some kind of unconscious bias going on. And I'll also add in there that Attwell has not always covered himself in glory as a referee. He's had enough, refereeing's a hard job, but he's dropped enough rickets to also make you question about, would it be a bad idea to have him in charge of a Forest match, bearing in mind the issue that we had with the Everton match, and then the fact that a referee who has dropped a clanger in the past would have a lot of pressure put on him in that situation?
Well, I suppose it's a bit like when the players on the pitch, Man United players are always quite vociferous in the referee's ear when you used to be allowed to be, when you were allowed to be, and everything that went against them, they complain, and just the cumulative effect would make the referee sort of subconsciously favour them the next time. He'd be like, well, seeing as I've gone against them that many times in their opinion, I'll just do them in this little one where 50-50, 60-40. I suppose it's a bit like that, the Marinakis doing what he does, he's stuck up for Forest that many times that in the end, I suppose the people in charge, they just probably thought, well, seeing as we technically have the choice, let's just keep him away from it and avoid the controversy. And I think that's a good thing. That it just shows that it's good to stick up for yourself, and that's why we're incredibly fortunate to not just to have Marinakis's money, but to have his maverick nature at the head of our football club.
Yep. Completely agree. And of course, we've talked about that before, and we're both fans of the fact that we've got somebody who will go all ends out to protect Nottingham Forest. And we'll talk a bit more about Nottingham Forest in just a second.
Welcome to YATESY'S Espresso Bar.
Welcome back to 1865 and to Yates's Espresso Bar. It's Rich here with Raymundo Football. Now, Ray, you mentioned in the first part of our podcast that we've got a number of international footballers in our ranks. I personally, this season, have found that when Ibrahim Sangare has been playing well, he's been a great tempo setter. You mentioned Nico Williams, who's been 8 out of 10 every single week, with the exception of that handball against Palace, which was an instinctive reaction. But the player that's the name that's on everyone's lips is Morgan Gibbs-White. And I'm just going to put it out there, okay? He's got goals, he's got assists, he tracks back, he works hard for the team. He has been wearing the armband for most of the season as a leader and as a captain. He's hitting form at the right time. He's got to go to the World Cup, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. In a fair world, I suppose the only thing is he's not tested at that level, is he? Whereas all the others, they know what they're doing at international level. And I mean, if I was Thomas Tuchel, I guess I would definitely take him. Yeah, but I think if you're taking people purely on form, then I think Gibbs-White's got to go. And I suppose he's got the added bonus as well when it comes to the World Cup. The other countries will have studied him less than they will have studied the likes of Phil Foden or Cole Palmer or people like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's also something to be said for timing, isn't there? So as I say, he started to score goals, 15 goals this season. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And you look at the likes of, we saw Foden. He's been having a tough time. He didn't play well in the last England match, even though he's out of position. Morgan Rogers, I think, is probably he's definitely a good player to have, because yes, he can play as a number 10, but at a pinch, he can play out wide, as he often does for Villa. Jude Bellingham's going to be the number one choice to play in that number 10 role. But then after that, you've got Foden, you've got Palmer, you've got Eze, and they've all blown a bit hot and cold. And I think Morgan, I say, he's playing with freedom. And you look at the others, and they seem to have the weight of the world on their shoulders. And of course, if Arsenal do bottle the title, and that's still a big if, but if they do, then Eze is going to be on a real downer as well.
Well, definitely, mate, definitely. And I think you got to take people who are on form, and Gibbs-White, it depends on what type of manager you are. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Gareth Southgate used to prefer people who he'd had a track record with, and even if they weren't playing particularly well, he'd stick with them, I think. But for me, I think you should take people who are on form, and certainly it's Gibbs-White at the moment. But the thing is, Rich, having said that, to play the other side of it, like, we are still sort of 16th in the table, and he is the captain. So, and Man City are top of the league, or second in the league. So, you could say, well, you'd probably prefer to take someone who's top of the league or second in the league, even if they're not 100% scintillating form. It just depends which way you look at it. Depends on how Tuchel sees it. But for me, Gibbs-White is the man of the moment, and he's the one who's going to give you the most passion and fire on the pitch, and also in the dressing room. Seems like if you're not playing well on the pitch, particularly like Foden and Palmer and that, seems like you'd probably be a little bit of a downer in the dressing room as well. Like, look at Marcus Rashford. He's having a smashing time in Barcelona. When he was at Man United, I would have said he's the same. He just looks like he's a downer. Like, he just looks like, I just don't think I'd enjoy sitting next to him on a bus on the way to a World Cup match, whereas I would with Gibbs-White. But now, Rashford's got the fire back, and I look at him and I just think he's got to go to the World Cup. He's a superstar again.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I mean, I will point out that Forest are currently, over the last 5 matches, one of the form teams in the division, certainly in the bottom half of the division. So there's something going right there. I would also just say that Morgan, when he has pulled on the England shirt, he's done really well every single time. And you can't say that for all of the other players that we've talked about, maybe because they've had more matches, maybe. But I also think that there's something there, and I saw a comment somewhere on the internet. I was looking below the line, and someone was saying, it's like, you think that Morgan he wouldn't grumble about maybe being the 3rd or 4th choice attacking midfielder, whereas someone like Foden or Palmer, they might be a bit mardy about it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the kind of thing that you'd be looking at if you were the England manager. You wouldn't just be thinking about talent or even just form. You'd be thinking about those things which we've just been talking about, the dressing room effect, and like when you have a third choice goalkeeper, isn't it? You got to get in a third choice goalkeeper who knows that he's going to be a third choice goalkeeper, because otherwise he's just going to be a massive downer on the dressing room for the entire season. So it's that effect that I don't know if that has a name in the coaching world, that if that concept has a name in the coaching world, but that's what we both understand what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to Yates's Espresso Bar.
So let's move on and let's go back to Forest being one of the form teams in the bottom half of the table. Okay, let's just cut to the chase. We are doing well at the moment. Vitor took quite a while to get that first league victory against Spurs, but since then we've been doing all right, and crucially as well, scoring goals. So we scored 12 goals in the last 6 matches. We've conceded fewer than a goal a game. So those are all good omens. But also, you know, we've seen Chris Wood coming back. We're having to manage his minutes. Callum Hudson-Odoi's out for the rest of the season. The other wingers, Backwell and Ndoye, Hutchinson, they blow hot and cold. Murillo has struggled quite a lot. I think he's been playing with an injury for at least a month, because he's just been that half a yard slower, I think.
Yeah.
And we've got, on paper, one of the toughest run-ins of any of the teams in the bottom 6. But Spurs and West Ham aren't going to catch us, are they?
It's hard to imagine. Obviously, Spurs are pretty dreadful, and West Ham aren't anything special at the moment either. I listened to the game last night, and they were pretty poor in the second half, I think. And I think if we can go to Sunderland, get a draw or a win, obviously, it's kind of a truism in a way. But you know, if we were to get a draw or a win, I think that sees us safely on for at least a couple more games. So you know, it's hard to see. I think, judging on how we're playing and the kind of the togetherness of the team, the feeling around the team, I think we're on top out of the 3. I really do, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And Leeds have more or less got themselves into a position of safety. So Forest are kind of in a sort of no man's land, really, aren't they? They're not doing quite as well as Leeds points-wise, but they've got that little cushion to West Ham and Spurs. I mean, it sounds to me as though De Zerbi's kind of doing a little bit like what Igor Tudor did. He's kind of come in and got them kind of that little new manager bounce where they were unlucky to get defeated against Sunderland, but then at the weekend conceded the equaliser in the sort of last minute of stoppage time. Xavi Simons burst into tears on the pitch, and in his post-match interview goes, "I don't want people who cry. I don't want people who are not able to cope." So it seems as though he's doing a similar thing to Tudor, saying, "Look, these guys, they're not the guys," and that's not going to do him any good, is it?
It's a dangerous game, and I'd like to see De Zerbi's contract, you know, if he's going to stick around, if they're in the Championship next season. I'll see him away at Stevenage away next season. Stevenage are in the final playoff position in the League One currently, so I'd like to see De Zerbi rocking up at Stevenage away, giving it the big one, as they say down south, you know. I think that'll be hilarious, but it's a strange appointment, really. It's the type of appointment which I would understand in pre-season if they'd already secured their survival. I would have thought that somebody like Tim Sherwood would be better off, to be honest, in there at the moment, or Harry Redknapp, or a couple of people, just to say, look, you know, just to say the obvious things. We are Spurs, you know, this is what it's all about. We've got to do this for the fans, not this De Zerbi thing of shake it up, shake it all about, gel your hair up, you know, this is the way we play. I don't know. I'm not sure that's the right thing, really.
Yeah, and crucially, I think, and Pereira has shown this, and you mentioned it earlier, I think the key to survival at this stage of the Premier League season is nothing to do with how you play or what ability you've got, although ability helps and the way you play helps. It's all to do with up there and getting the players on side and believing that they're a coherent unit together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But you know, then I just look at our squad, and I think not only is it strong, but you know, you look at the bench; it's strong. Like, I know that for Moratho gets a lot of stick online, especially on Twitter, but I think he's an excellent third or fourth choice central defender. When he comes on, or say after the match, I always stay behind and watch them just chatting away, celebrating together and stuff. I think Morata looks like proper lad. You know, I think he looks like he loves being there, even though he knows he's third or fourth choice centre back. Same with Ryan Yates. He's the first one there, congratulating everybody. Like I got, if you watch my video from the last match, when Morgan Gibbs-White went off, he got a massive hug from the manager. He got a massive hug from two of the guys who I assume are assistants or coaches or whatever. Then I was zoomed right in because my Zoom is quite good. If you've noticed on my phone, it's a 2-year-old phone, but it's pretty good Zoom. And I zoomed right in on the bench, and Murillo sat there beaming away. Woody's sat there beaming away. You know, I just feel like it's a really good squad dynamic. Not only are they good players, but they're really together off the pitch, and I think that's key.
Yeah, and I think that's what got our success last season, and that's what kept us in the Premier League under Steve Cooper that first season as well. It was not so much to do with brawn or graft or ability. It was to do with actually getting everyone to kind of go and move in the same direction. Another thing that I just want to add about Morgan, which is that with regard to his character, and as we're talking about the character of the players, so Morgan, when Spurs thought they'd activated his release clause and they wanted to talk to him, you can look at just last summer, we saw Isak and Visser and other players who would then go to the press and cry about it. And Morgan kept his powder dry. And then Marinakis came in and intervened. Obviously, he persuaded Morgan that City Ground is a place to be. He obviously gave him a massive bag of money as well, which helps. But particularly at a time when, you know, it's easy to forget as well that Morgan and his partner are having a rough time, I think, with their second child, was either just due or had just arrived. And so he was looking for some security as well. So those kinds but he didn't say a word. And then he's still a team player, sometimes too much so. So in that Porto match under Deitch, he gave the second penalty to Igor Jesus to take. Sometimes he's been guilty of passing it when he should shoot, and I'm glad that he's being a bit more selfish these days. And then also you look at on Sunday, Yatesy comes on, Morgan's still on the pitch. First thing that happens as soon as Yatesy gets on the pitch, Morgan runs over from the left-hand touchline to the centre circle to give him the armband. It's like, I know that I want to be a leader and a talisman for this team, but Yatesy's the man. Yatesy's the leader of this club.
Well, that's it, mate. Definitely. And that's what it's all about. But, you know, without wanting to take the conversation away to a different direction, but for me, that whole team spirit, it probably comes more from Ryan Yates more than anyone else. Obviously, Gibbs-White is excellent in the way you just described, but I would say people are going to come and go. Morgan Gibbs-White will probably leave at some point. You know, Murillo will probably leave at some point. We'll have replacements, just like last season. When we tried to replace Elanga, they weren't as good, and they were less kind of like fiery as well as characters. And in the end, you need players like Yates who have come through and stuck around, like Lewis Dunk at Brighton. You know, who would have thought that Solly March would still be playing for Brighton like 6-7 years on, and the likes of you know, there's a couple of others. Danny Welbeck's still there. Who would have thought that? But they're still like the form team. They got all these exciting wingers. They're on the verge of Europe because it's not just all about the playing attributes and the fact that he plays for Brazil, he plays for Serbia. It's about who's actually there on the training ground in the dressing room saying, "Hold on a sec, guys. Stop thinking about your own contract. Stop thinking about where you're going to go next season if we go down. I'm staying here. I'm from here. I'm sticking around, and this matters to me. So you need to put in more effort than what you think." And I think Yates is the man, and that's what I've been harping on about Joe Worrell. Not that I'm saying we should talk about that, but I just think if you were to get Joe Worrell back as fourth choice centre back next season, and just play that same role, just demand the standards on the training pitch and in the dressing room. But yeah, no, I'll hand it over to you if you want to elaborate on that. But understand if you don't.
All I'm going to say is that there was a very, very lovely picture that Worrell posted on Instagram, which was of him, Yatesy, and Zach Abbott, and he said past, present, and future. And I thought that summed it up very nicely. And you could tell, you know, in many ways, if I was a Burnley fan, I'd have been a bit pissed off at Worrell going round at the end of the match with Yates, because it's like, well, you're our player now, but you can tell that, okay, things didn't end as he would have wanted them to for Worrell at Forest, but he's a fan first, isn't he?
Well, he's a fan, but he's still a professional footballer. You know, like if Willy Bolly's good enough last season to be our fourth choice when we're going for Europa League or Champions League or whatever, then Joe Worrell's definitely good enough, because Joe Worrell's just as good as Willy Bolly. So, and plus Joe Worrell's got that extra X factor, like what I was saying before, just the fact that he would stick around if we went down. Him and Yates are the two players who would stick around if we went down, and that means something, I believe. Unless you want to just become a team of just completely transitory players.
Yeah, there is that. And of course, there's that whole argument as well that you learn more about players and managers when things aren't going well than when things are. And Worrell and Yates are not the type to shy away in a fight, if you see what I mean. So just on that last, and just to close off today's discussion, Ray, so Vitor Pereira, if Forest stay up, do you see him still being at City Ground next season?
Yeah, because I'm always for continuity in a manager, especially if they've got something about them, and obviously Pereira does have something about him. He's not exactly set the world on fire. He did all right with Wolves and started off back poorly, and he's done all right with us, pretty decent with us, and so I would say I'm always saying give the manager a chance. And to be fair, I think one thing that Vitor's got going for him is the fact that he's worked with Marinakis before. So whereas Deitch hadn't, Postecoglou hadn't. So, because obviously working under Marinakis has got to be quite different to working under most other owners. So if Vitor's happy to come over to Forest and take on that contract, knowing what Marinakis is like, then he's probably the right man for the job, really, because Marinakis is the main man. Not like Man United back in the day where nobody really knew who the owners were, or they were just kind of insignificant and it was all about Ferguson. Now, the managers could come and go. It's all about Marinakis. That's the way I see it.
And I heard a really good argument the other day saying that Marinakis is essentially the Alex Ferguson of the modern game. Like he's not a coach, but everything at Forest has to go through the big guy himself. And maybe it's telling that I've certainly when I've looked across from my seat in the lower Brian Clough, the big guy hasn't been going to as many matches while Vitor's been there. I don't know if that's because he's got other things on, but the other managers he was watching like a hawk. So he's obviously got some more trust in Vitor, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just
going to point out as well that Marco Silva has also worked under Marinakis. So just leaving that there.
Yeah, but I mean, Marco Silva, he's been at Fulham. I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with a Fulham fan from the States, and Marco Silva, I found out that Marco Silva's been there for 4 or 5 years now, and what have they really done? He's just been a decent manager, that's all, really. He's kept them in the division, he's kept them at mid-table. Nothing that special, is it? I wouldn't be bursting to get him in, for sure.
Well, there's some food for thought there, and that's a conversation that will probably continue on another day. So I'm going to say, in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us once again, Raymundo Football. We can find you on YouTube and on Twitter, can't we? And thank you, if you're listening or watching, for joining us. We'll be back after the Sunderland match. Come on, you Reds.
You've been listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. Follow us on X, Insta, TikTok, Threads and Blue Sky, and listen via Apple, Spotify and YouTube. All the links are available at 1865